Hello, and thank you again for tuning into Kicking Ideas. Today I have a really cool guest for us. He's got some very interesting things that I've always wanted to know about him. And uh, essentially, my guest is a Berlitz instructor. So he teaches at Berlitz. And from the people that need to understand what Berlitz is, it's a school that is like one of the oldest English schools on earth right now. I mean, it's like one of the oldest language learning schools. It's got the most credibility when it comes to a lot of people doing it. So today I had this wonderful and quite unique opportunity again to meet with my friend Richard. That's his name. And I'll let him do a little bit more of his own self-introduction. Of course, he's going to speak all in Brazilian Portuguese because he's in fact from Brazil. However, he actually, he'll let him tell a little bit more of his story, but he actually is an English teacher at Berlitz, which is like the only Brazilian I've ever heard of doing that job for Berlitz, because they generally want to have native speakers doing all of their teaching. So one of the great things is we got him for this wonderful interview. And without further ado, Richard, would you like to explain a little bit who you are in Portuguese?
Sim. Boa noite a todos. Meu nome é Richard Livramento e eu sou do sul do Brasil, do estado de Santa Catarina. E, bem, eu vim para o Japão, a primeira vez que eu vim para o Japão foi no ano de 1992, se não me engano.
That's quite a long time ago. Have you been here continuously for that whole time?
Não,
Okay.
Eu vim pela primeira vez em 92 e fiquei durante 3 anos continuamente.
What were you doing at that time? For 3 years you were here. How old were you? I guess I don't want you to have to tell me. I don't know. What were you doing at that time?
Quando eu vim para o Japão a primeira vez, na verdade, eu não tinha um emprego fixo, né? Então, eu fui morar em Hokkaido. Hokkaido, sim, porque minha mulher é japonesa e ela é de Hokkaido.
I understand.
Isso. Okay. Nós nos conhecemos, na verdade, na Inglaterra, em Londres, quando eu fui para Londres em final de 1989. Eu fui para Londres para estudar inglês, para viajar, eu queria sair do Brasil. E lá em Londres, eu e a minha mulher nos conhecemos em um restaurante japonês, onde eu fazia um trabalho eu fazia um arubaito, né?
Okay.
E ela foi do Japão para trabalhar nesse restaurante lá.
Okay, enfim, so you said a word arubaito, which is a Japanese word, is like a part-time job, I guess you would say.
Job. Yeah. Isso, é um trabalho de meio período, né? Que seria em português.
I see.
Um trabalho de meio período. Exatamente.
It's interesting that, because every time I interview Brazilians in Japan, you use a lot of what I kind of say is like the Japanese Portuguese, right? It's like Portuguese. So that there's a lot of them. And for the listeners that are in, Portugal and the ones that are in Brazil, when they hear those words, like it's like I have one that I always said. I said like, get me a tissue, pega tissue, and the guys always say like, they kind of look at me like, what? I said, tissue, and they're like, what está falando inglês? I said, yeah, it's English, tissue. And they said, lenço de papel, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So this is the thing, and then I was like, gomenne. You guys always say this like,
sim, com certeza.
And like those things words. It's kind of like all this Japanese that gets.
Faz onegai aí para mim, faz onegai aí.
Yeah.
Isso é uma coisa, eu acho que é uma coisa normal que acontece pelo fato de você estar morando num país durante muitos anos, então, consequentemente, você vai absorver muita coisa daquele país. E uma delas é a língua, logicamente, né? Mas, então, Rob, eu sei também que brasileiros que moram nos Estados Unidos, ou até mesmo na Inglaterra, depois de muito tempo lá, eles também misturam algumas coisas e abrasileiram, aportuguesam, tipo, a língua inglesa, entendeu? Uma delas é você dizer assim, hoje eu estou muito bisado, que vem da palavra estar busy, busy, entendeu?
That's a good one. I'm gonna start
Isso, vem de
using that.
busy.
People won't know what I'm
Isso.
saying, but that's a good one. Yeah, there's
É,
so many of these like
cansado, enjoado, e bisado.
that's awesome. No, there's so much of that actually in lots of languages. Every time I start learning a
Uhum,
language, I find these little fun details that make the language really interesting and make it more, something just really quite fun for me. And so, Richard, one of the things that I wanted to have you on this Kicking Ideas this week is specifically about um, your journey on learning English to the point where you were able to teach it at Berlitz, which is just amazing to me. In that, they, from what I understood, it's like Berlitz is like they won't even hire like Filipinos to teach English, who I consider native speakers in many ways. But
uhum.
then they hired you there. Is it because of your time in London, or what would you say tell us a little bit about how you got to work at Berlitz as an English teacher?
Bom, na verdade, como eu estava falando para você agora há pouco, na verdade, eu fui introduzido por uma amiga minha, né, que é professora de português na Berlitz já há muito tempo. E nós nos conhecemos em uma outra escola e ela disse: então eu vou te apresentar lá o gerente de línguas, o manager, né? Então eu falei: tudo bem. Então marcamos uma entrevista. Só que eu fui para a entrevista, na verdade, para ser contratado como professor de português.
Right.
A
Okay.
minha intenção não era de ser contratado para dar aula de inglês na Berlitz, logicamente que não era essa a minha intenção, né?
It wasn't your
Mas
intention, and also you weren't ever thinking they would ever hire you for that, I guess.
não, eu nem me passava pela cabeça,
Right.
entendeu? Que eles iam me contratar para dar aula de inglês na Berlitz, não, né?
Yeah.
Mas, enfim, aí fui para a entrevista e o gerente, é lógico, ele também falava um pouco japonês, porque mora no Japão há muito tempo. Então, começamos a entrevista falando um pouco de japonês, e ele perguntou também um pouco da minha história, e disse: morei na Inglaterra, em Londres. Você morou em Londres? Você fala inglês? Sim, eu falo. E aí, ao invés de conversarmos em japonês, a nossa conversa começou em inglês, a entrevista. E dali, depois, logicamente, né, eu comecei a dar aula de português na Berlitz. Eles me chamaram primeiramente para dar aula de português. Aí depois, esse mesmo gerente, ele mesmo me indicou aos outros gerentes para eu pegar algumas aulas de inglês. E foi assim que eu comecei.
Wow.
Foi mais
Well,
ou menos isso.
that's amazing. Yeah, I'm actually
Hum.
really, it's really impressive to me simply because, I've had several friends that have, Americans or whatever that have applied for Berlitz and haven't gotten the job. So I just, like, well done, you know. Um, so for me, that's a good point. I guess what I've always thought as well, and I think, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I feel like if you want to teach a language, you probably should know another language, at least one other language. Because if you don't, how can you really tell somebody how to do something that you've never done before? And in my
Hum,
case, one of the things I always do is I like to continue to study other languages every year. So, like this year, my goal is to learn Russian. I know I'm
hum,
not going to get that far in Russian this year, but I've learned basically how to read most of the alphabet.
hum,
I have a kind of a basic vocabulary for a few things. I know how a tiny bit of how the grammar is working out, but I've only been doing it since uh, January. So January
hum.
1st every year, I grab a language and I studied. Last year it was Italian, and
Aham.
I continued to kind of like I'll check up on my Italian from now time to time. But that's one of the
Uhum,
reasons why, for me, people ask me like, how come you tend to study all these languages? And the reason for it is so that I know what it's like for my students who might be in their first English class, their first Spanish class, their first Portuguese class, their first
hum.
Japanese class. Those are the languages I try to teach. When people ask me to to teach them, I will teach them to them. But Yeah, that's the reason why I keep it up, because I just continually always learning a
Hum,
language.
sim,
But
sim.
yeah, so in your case, I guess they recognize, well, this guy, he knows, he's a good Portuguese teacher. He's very professional. Let's put him to teach some English classes. And then
Hum.
you did that as well. So that's great. What you said you're married and you brought your wife is the reason you came to Japan originally.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what keeps you in Japan?
Ah, bem, então, voltando um pouco, eu disse que eu fiquei 3 anos consecutivamente no Japão. Eu morei em Hokkaido primeiro 1 ano,
Mhm.
né, depois fomos descendo, nós fomos descendo. Aí
Are you going to
é,
Kyushu or
não, 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 não cheguei aí para Kyushu, o máximo foi Aichi, né, Aichi aqui, né.
But I mean, in a few years, you plan to go to Hiroshima and then down to Kyushu and then
É,
finally and retire in Okinawa, I guess. So,
talvez eu vá para Okinawa, porque o meu filho mais novo, ele está morando em Okinawa agora.
all right, you already got a foot in the door. So yeah.
Mas então, anyway, nós viemos descendo. Eu morei em Hokkaido 1 ano, e aí depois o meu irmão mais velho, que é casado com uma descendente de japoneses também, ele veio para morar em Nagano,
Uh-huh.
Nagano-ken, né?
I see.
E aí eu estava me sentindo um pouco solitário lá em Hokkaido, porque não tinha estrangeiro lá.
Hmm.
Você acredita, eu fiquei 1 ano morando em Hokkaido sem ter contato com nenhum brasileiro.
Wow.
1 ano. É.
Wow.
E aí, então eu comecei a ficar um pouco meio, talvez depressivo, não sei. E aí meu irmão veio para Nagano, eu vi a oportunidade, e, então vamos embora para Nagano. Aí viemos para Nagano, moramos lá 6 meses. Achei um outro trabalho em Gifu e ali morei muito tempo. Acho que morei uns 10 anos também na cidade de Tokishi, perto de Tajimi, não sei se você sabe.
Yeah, yeah, I know Tajimi. I don't. I
É.
didn't know Takshimi, but Tajimi is famous because it's the hottest city in Japan.
Ah,
So I guess the other place that you were living at was pretty hot in the summertime.
very hot. Muito quente, bem quente. Então, aí morei em Tokishi nesse tempo todo. Meu filho mais velho, mais novo, nasceu ali, inclusive. E depois vim para trabalhar, vim morar em Nagoya. E estou até aqui, até agora.
Wow,
Hum.
that's a long time. So you've been consecutively in Japan for how many years then in total?
Ah, sim. Então, morei 3 anos no Japão, fomos para o Brasil, moramos 2 anos lá, e aí
Mhm.
retornamos para o Japão. Então, eu acho que agora, consecutivamente, eu devo estar no Japão há uns 23 anos, mais ou menos.
Wow, so you're one of the few people that actually has more time in Japan than I do. Uh,
Really?
yeah, yeah. I've,
Ah,
I've been in Japan for 20 years now, 20 years, going on 21,
ah,
starting in,
é bastante tempo também. É
yeah,
bastante.
yeah. I mean, it's not a contest, but but it is interesting because, like, people will say, "How long have you been in Japan?" And I say 20 years, and they're like, "Oh, that's a long time." Then
Sim.
it really dates me. It goes, "Oh, wait a minute, you can't be younger than," and you must be older than,
Yeah.
you must be in your 40s. Is basically what it says to me if I say that I've been there for 20 years. And the truth is, yeah, I've been here for 20 years, and I came the first time in 2001.
Hum.
Um, I absolutely loved it. It was the best experience of my life up until then. And I had been to Panama before that, and I loved Panama.
Hum.
And you know, up until then, up until I came to Japan, I hadn't had any. I'd been to Canada, Panama, and the United States, various places around there. But
Hum.
yeah, I just everything about Japan was better, in my opinion.
Hum.
For me, everything,
Sim.
every single thing. And there's a few things in Panama that I can say are better. One is fruit. Fruit in
Ah,
Panama is much better. Um, but other than the fruit being better, that's about it. Like, I guess sometimes the heat in Japan is pretty hot during the summer.
ah. Eu
I don't.
acho que no Japão não é a temperatura em si, entendeu? A temperatura, ela é alta, logicamente, mas como eu sou brasileiro, lá no Brasil nós também temos temperatura alta no verão, entendeu? 35, 37, 38. Eu acho que o verão aqui nessa região, e eu ouvi dizer também que em Kyoto, no verão, o que acontece? O verão é muito úmido aqui,
Mhm.
né? A
Right.
umidade é muito alta, então por isso a gente sente muito o calor e é um pouco pesado, eu
Right.
acho, né?
Right.
Não é um calor seco, entendeu?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mas e aqui você fica tipo, chega no verão, julho por ali, você às vezes tem 2 semanas de sol direto de manhã até a tarde,
It is
cara,
really hot.
é
Yeah.
pesado, é pesado.
Especially, like that was the thing. So I first ended up in when I had first come to Japan, it was in the middle of the summer, and I stayed in Nagano City during
Nagano.
the hottest part of the summer, which I thought was really hot in Nagano. But that's nothing compared to my first summer in Hiroshima. I thought I was gonna die. Like Hiroshima was absolutely burning hot, like just
Hum.
every day in the summer. And I just went, oh my gosh, how do people live? You know?
É,
And it was so hot in the summer. It's like I lived in Panama for 2 years and it never got as hot like that. The feeling of the heat. And I mean, this is Panama. Panama's absolutely every day, not like humidity and everything is high. But the Japanese is like hot humidity. There's absolutely no wind. There's like points where there's just no wind at all. You just feel this like, and then you get these
é,
bugs going, and you're just dying. Like, oh,
é.
it's pretty tough.
Você sabe que, então, esses bugs que você falou,
Yeah.
nós chamamos de cigarra, né, em português, cigarra.
Yeah, cicadas, as we call them in English. Yeah.
Exato, exato. Eu simplesmente adoro as cigarras aqui do Japão. Eu
Oh, they're
adoro.
cool. Yeah, they are really cool.
Putz,
Yeah. I actually think they're really they're super fun because again, when I first saw them, they're like they make all this big sound, and they sometimes they fly into the train cars, and I remember one got into a train car and it was flying around and everybody was like running away from it. I thought they were dangerous because everybody was like all like but it's just that they're creeped out about bugs, But for me, now then I saw like kids would just pick them up and like carry them around and put them a bunch of them in a little box and things and that
normal.
yeah. But I
Muito
think
bom.
what other stories do you have from Japan? Like what is some what is I guess your most interesting story that you can tell me about Japan in like a couple minutes? That it wouldn't be like a long story, just a kind of a short story, something interesting that happened to you in Japan.
História interessante. Bom, por exemplo, né? Você, assim, comparando a minha vida, talvez todo mundo se identifique mais ou menos assim. Como eu disse, quando eu saí de Hokkaido para ir para Nagano, né? Logicamente, naquela época eu ainda não tinha filhos. Era só eu e a minha mulher, né? Então, praticamente todas as coisas que nós tínhamos, logicamente nós deixamos a geladeira e a televisão, né? Mas todas as coisas que nós tínhamos, nós conseguimos colocar dentro de um carro.
Uau!
E esse carro não era um carro grande, era um Toyota Starlet, não sei se você conhece, é um hatchback, é um carro pequeno. Nós simplesmente rebatemos o banco traseiro e
put everything inside. Yeah.
Tudo dentro. E aí viemos de Hokkaido dirigindo, o carro era ainda câmbio manual, de 4 velocidades ainda. Viemos dirigindo de Obihiro, que fica em Tokachi, até Nagano. Demoramos mais ou menos uns 3 dias para chegar em Nagano.
Uau!
Mas foi uma viagem assim, olha, fantástica, por causa do visual, cada lugar que a gente passou. Nossa, cara, foi muito legal, muito bonito. Mas cansativo também, né? Porque você dirigir assim um carro de câmbio manual todo esse tempo cansa muito. Mas e aí eu me lembro poxa, aquela época todas as coisas que a gente tinha coube dentro de um carro, se eu for me imaginar agora, não vai caber nem a metade, entendeu? Só como a vida muda, né? Como a vida mudou.
Yeah, that's actually an amazing part. I remember I had a friend that was moving from one place to Kariya. I can't remember where he was at, but he was moving down to Kariya, which is in Aichi, so the middle of Aichi, and he was moving somewhere kind of around here in Gifu area, maybe, or like northern Inazawa or somewhere like that, but moving down to Aichi. And I remember we came up to his apartment. He lived in one of those little Leo Palace Flats, which is just like a one-room kind of studio apartment. And we loaded up all his stuff into one car, just like you're
Yeah.
saying. Everything he owned went into one car. It was amazing. It was like we played Tetris with that stuff. Everything was getting like everything got moved into little places, and we filled that entire car up. And then he took the train into Caria, and my friend who drives, he drove the car, and I rode with him. And I rode with him, and I had like all this stuff on top of me as we were going forward. And we got down to Caria, and then took everything out and moved him. So I kind of have an idea of what you're talking about with, being on that, but I can't imagine for 3 days being on the road. Did you stay in hotels?
Não, não, logicamente, nós viemos parando, né? A primeira parada que nós fizemos foi em Sapporo, paramos à noite, ficamos no hotel. Depois, a próxima parada foi em Hakodate. Hakodate já bem na ponta a última cidade praticamente de Hokkaido, onde ali você, naquela época nós pegamos a balsa, que chama o ferry boat, né? Coloca o carro na balsa e você atravessa lá o mar do Japão, o canal, e aí você já sai...
Você fala...
Balsa.
Balsa is a ferry boat. Ferry boat, balsa. Ferry boat.
Tem vários tipos de balsa, né? Tem balsas que são próprias só para carro, ou só para pessoas, enfim. Mas aquela era para pessoas e também para o carro ir embaixo, assim, né? Era muito grande, enorme. E aí atravessa o canal lá, e aí você já sai em Aomori, do outro lado, né? E aí de Aomori, aí dormimos mais uma noite em Sendai, na cidade de Sendai, né?
Uau!
Isso. Aí depois de Sendai, direto até Nagano, ali parte de Toyoshima, Hotaka, Machi, por ali, Matsumoto. Foi ali que eu morei.
Matsumoto, yeah. I went to Matsumoto and I went to Uedashi. At the time when I went to Uedashi, there was a lot of Brazilians in Uedashi.
Sim. Tem bastante brasileiro, sim.
Yeah, and so that's when I met my first Brazilians that I met in Japan. It was down in Uedashi, and I remember meeting them. It was quite amazing. Yeah, I didn't expect to meet Brazilians in Japan. And then I just met lots of them. And then and I kept meeting more and more and more. I was like, wow, there are a lot of Brazilians in Japan. And that was my first experience over in Nagano as well. And so that when I went to Matsumoto city, that was just a quick stay there and then out. But then from Nagano, where I first stayed, I took that trip to Uedashi, and that was such an amazing, just how beautiful Japan is when you first arrive here, just how pretty the nature looks. So when you're talking about when you're driving down from Hokkaido, I can just imagine, it's breathtakingly beautiful, and you see all these old temples and these old shrines and like old houses like this. This is an old water house is what this is behind me. And this old water house is like, that's the style of roof that they did like, hundreds of years ago. And they keep doing that today. It's just grass. It's just regular grass that they put up there as in a straw roof.
Yes.
In Nagano, what did you do when you were in Nagano? What was your form of working?
Mas então, uma diferença entre, por exemplo, que eu acho uma grande diferença entre os nativos de língua inglesa, como você, por exemplo, americanos, ingleses, australianos, etc. Eles vêm para o Japão, geralmente já com emprego garantido para ser professor, basicamente, né?
Yeah.
A grande maioria.
Yeah.
Só que nós brasileiros, não. Nós viemos para cá. A maioria dos brasileiros vem para o Japão para fazer o quê? Para trabalhar em fábrica.
Yeah,
né?
That's right.
Então, o que eu fiz até eu começar a dar aula aqui no Japão, até eu ter o meu próprio negócio, que eu faço outras coisas também, eu também trabalhei em fábrica.
Uh-huh.
Eu tive que trabalhar em fábrica. Lá em Hokkaido, não. Em Hokkaido, eu trabalhei num restaurante durante quase, mais ou menos uns 11 meses. Demorou mais ou menos um mês até eu conseguir o trabalho, por causa do visto e aquelas coisas, né? Mas foi um trabalho que eu fiz no restaurante, lá em Hokkaido, que me ajudou muito a aprender a língua japonesa também, porque todo mundo era Nihonjin, todo mundo era
Yeah.
japonês.
Yeah.
E aí tinha aquelas obaçãs, que como eu era novidade, que eu era um estrangeiro, então todo mundo queria falar comigo, né?
Uh-huh.
Obrigado. E aí,
Yeah.
mas eu não entendia nada de japonês praticamente, só que o dono do restaurante, que ele ainda tem esse restaurante até hoje, que é muito popular lá na cidade, ele gostava muito de inglês e ele falava um pouquinho assim, né? E aí ele disse para mim, então, Richard, você me ensina a falar inglês e aí você vai aprender japonês aqui. Tudo bem, legal. Inclusive, tem uma história assim, um fato que eu me lembro até hoje, era que tem o Batman do comics, né?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
O cara lá, o Homem-Morcego, né?
Homem Morcego, Batman,
O
yeah.
Homem-Morcego. Então, o nome dele em inglês é Batman,
Yeah.
que é o Homem-Morcego, né?
Yeah, yeah.
Batman é o Homem-Morcego, né?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Só que o patrão do restaurante, o dono, até então, até eu falar para ele como é que era o Batman, ele achava que o nome era Badman.
Que era ruim, homem ruim.
Homem mau, homem ruim. Ele achava que
Batman.
era Badman. Aí eu falei para ele, não é Badman, é Batman. E ele ficou tão espantado, porque ele já tinha 30 e poucos anos, ele viveu a vida toda dele achando que era Batman e era
Oh,
Batman.
that's great. That's great. I
Então,
can't
mas
even
foi
imagine.
uma época boa.
Yeah, there's so many things that are like that. It's interesting. There was a couple days ago. Can't remember the word that I learned. Oh, it's I learned the word a row, ROW, when it means like you had an argument with somebody. We had a row, right?
Eu acho
Right?
que o inglês da Inglaterra eles falam row.
Yeah, row. That's right. That's right. See, I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, but it's a row. So I was
Eu acho
like,
que é row,
right. See, there, and I didn't know this word until like I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know the word. If you would have showed me the word ROW and pronounced it row, I said no, it's pronounced row, but a row, and I didn't realize that was an argument, or like a fight. Like so, you had a fight with your wife. You would say we had a row, and
Yes.
so I had no idea that this word even existed, and then I started like once I heard it. I ended up hearing it lots of times, like in stuff that I had already seen before, like TV programs that I had already watched once, and I was watching again because yeah, that's my life. I watched so I was watching this program again. I heard this. I was like, whoa! I never heard that before. So I'm wondering, there's a lot of words that actually are out there that like again, like he thought it was bad man. I just didn't even I didn't even pick up on the word row, right? Or row. I didn't even pick up on the word row. It just like went through. It's like we're having a row, and I didn't even catch that they'd said it. And that was amazing to me. And I think that this is something that happens to everybody when you learn a new word. Or somebody points out a word to you, then you notice, oh man, that was all these times when I should have understood it.
Exatamente. Eu acho que o que acontece às vezes é que no inglês, talvez outras línguas também, mas no inglês às vezes tem a palavra, ela é escrita da mesma maneira, mas pode significar coisas diferentes. Nesse caso do row, que seria para uma discussão, uma briga, tem a outra palavra que é o ROW, mas é o remo, de remar.
That's
rowing,
right.
rowing,
Right,
rowing.
rowing.
Né?
Yeah.
Isso. Também se escreve ROW, mas aí o ROW é o remo. Não é o verbo remar. Remar é to row.
Yeah.
Talvez, né?
Yeah. Well, it's just interesting to me because I would have always pronounced it row de hamar instead of row de argumento, and that would or discussão or briga, right? So that's the interesting thing, and I wonder how many of those words I'm missing in Portuguese every day. It's like that. But yeah. So again, as I was saying before, this idea that we have about learning languages and how it might be um, that we can kind of help people to learn languages. Like as you said, you're in learning Japanese, and there was just everybody around you was Japanese, and
Hum.
you had to learn it by force. And I'm also of the opinion, and I don't know if you might disagree. That's great, but maybe you totally agree. And if you don't agree, I'd love to know why, because again, it's a great learning experience for me. But the way I see it is, I never meet anybody who can learn a language if they don't need to learn a language. If it's not
Hum.
necessary for them, they don't really learn it unless you need it. Have you been noticed that as well?
Exatamente, eu concordo com você. Eu acho que o fator necessidade,
Hmm.
ele é muito forte
Hmm.
nessa parte de você aprender a língua, entendeu? A necessidade, ela realmente, ela força a pessoa a realmente aprender, eu acho até que mais rápido,
Oh
né?
yeah, way
Do que
faster.
simplesmente por um hobby. Se você tem um hobby, porque eu já conheci várias pessoas que, eu vou aprender inglês, eu vou estudar inglês, entendeu? Mas simplesmente pelo fato de que, it's cool, eu quero viajar pelo mundo, eu quero conversar com várias pessoas. Mas geralmente, quando começa a sentir que aprender uma língua nova é realmente muito difícil e leva e demora, leva tempo e você tem que fazer um esforço muito grande, muita gente desiste no meio do caminho.
Yeah, yeah.
Muitas
Almost
pessoas.
everybody gives up. I mean, even
É.
myself, like I'm like really pushing myself to learn Russian right now. It's so hard for me to stick with this Russian.
Mas por que você quer aprender russo? Desculpe a minha pergunta.
No,
Por
it's a
quê?
great question. Look, again, I'm trying to keep my brain uh plastic, in
Hum,
that like I want it to continue to be able to learn languages. I want it to be able to have that ability, because when you don't use something, you tend to lose it. And I think with age, they say that the older you are, the harder it is to start a new language. And I
uhum,
just want to always be starting and stopping in new languages, because if I can do that, then I figure my brain will keep its plasticity a little bit longer. There's
hum,
been some data on that. So what I just pick a language, like last year was Italian, the year before that it was German, 2 years before that was French, and I'll go back to languages that I've studied before, and I'll try them. There's been a couple languages that I've never ever put too much emphasis on. One of them is Korean. I've absolutely
hum.
never put any real effort into Korean, but I've always kind of wanted to, you know.
Aham.
Um, but it's been like the alphabet is it's easy, simplistic, but again, if you're I have a hard time keeping up with it. The other reason I wanted to learn Russian is because I love Mongolia. Mongolia is like
Hum,
my passion and the place I'd love to be more than almost anywhere else in the world. But and they use the same Cyrillic alphabet as Russian, and it's pronounced the same way basically. So if I could learn how to pronounce
hum.
the Russian alphabet, then I can learn how to pronounce the Mongolian alphabet, and therefore I can learn, because there's very few materials on Mongolian, but there's a lot
Entendi.
of materials on Russian. And then
Uhum,
another reason is Russian is a really cool language. Simply,
hum.
as you were saying, it's really cool. But I have no necessity for Russian. Like in my daily life, I don't need it to do anything.
Sim.
So that's why I say, I'm able to get somewhere, but I don't get very far at all. And
Hum,
but when my situation is similar to yours, for when you went to work for uh Berlitz and got that English teaching job kind of by chance. Uh, in my case, I was teaching a volunteer English class in Japan, and a
hum,
couple of Brazilian students came to the class, and they were high school students at a high school nearby. And they said, you should go and teach English and Spanish at this school.
hum,
So I went in with the intention to be the Spanish and the English teacher,
hum.
and that was good. I thought, okay, I'll be a Spanish and English teacher. I went in there, and I thought, well, I could probably teach Japanese if I needed to, but I had no intention of teaching Japanese. And then I had no intention of teaching anything else. And then they said, "Oh yeah, come on in." And I interviewed with the guy, and the guy is so funny because I spoke to him the entire time in English because he had gone to school in America, and he was just so jazzed, so happy to see
Mm.
somebody speaking in English and have that opportunity, that we didn't do any of the interview in Portuguese, but he asked me, he says, "Do you speak Portuguese?" And I said, eu falo sim. And that's
Mm.
all the Portuguese I spoke with the man. I didn't speak another word with him on that subject. And then
Ah,
he said, "Yeah, well, we'll let you know tomorrow if we've got anything. We are looking for a teacher, and it would be great to have an American. It would be great to have an American that can teach English here, and you can teach Spanish too. That'd be wonderful." And so I went home, and I was like, "Oh, that went well." And the next day he says, "Come on in. We'll have another interview with you, and I think we will be offering you the job. Just come on in, and we'll have a little talk."
mm.
So I go in, and I'm like, "All right, great." And he's like, "Oh, so we've decided to make you the fourth grade teacher, the homeroom fourth grade teacher." And I say, "Okay, that's great." So he says, "You'll be teaching them English, and then I was like, "Fine, art, okay, that's fine. I can probably handle that." Then he says, "History," and then he
Oh,
says, "Geography," and then he says, "Math." And I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, things just got real," because if I have to teach those subjects, but I didn't think about it in a negative way. A lot of people would have said, "Wait, I'm not qualified for that." But
mm.
I'm like what they call Spanish. We always say atrevido. I'm
Atrevido. Ah.
I always try to do stuff that I know that like nobody else would ever try, and I just went in and said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then I really, to be completely honest with you and everybody who's watching this now, I didn't speak Portuguese at all.
Mm.
Like I could barely speak Portuguese at all. So, but I figured, how hard can it be? I understand people when they talk. I'd met lots of Brazilians, and I was like, it seems like I can understand about 70, 80%. So I'll just learn that other 20% and I'll be good. And I grabbed all of those books. They gave me a stack of textbooks. It says, "Go ahead and study these, and you'll start in the beginning of next year.
Mm.
For January 1st, we'll have you come in and do that." And I was like, "Okay." So I go home with this stack of books, and I read them all, cover to cover,
Oh.
every last bit of them. I sat down, read it out loud, got out the old Google Translate, any word I didn't know, looked it up. And by God, I spoke Portuguese within 6 months. I was as good as I am now, if not better, because I just
Oh.
dug into that stuff. So it's like
Os livros
necessity.
todos em português.
Yeah,
Os
yeah.
livros em português.
Yeah, everything. I gave all the materials. I did all of that study, and the kids I taught, the fourth graders, they graduated this year, and it was such a wonderful thing to see them graduate and be adults, and just remember. I said, "You guys remember when I couldn't speak like Portuguese at all in the class?" And you guys were like, they said, "Yeah, we remember you couldn't speak it at all." And then like halfway through you could speak it. And I was like, "Yeah, do
Mm.
you guys remember that?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I think that was a wonderful experience for me because I ended up learning Brazilian history, Brazilian geography, and
Ah.
the style of mathematics with the children. And it was so amazing. I was so excited about it that the children were also really excited about it. And we just had a really fun time.
Hum.
And I think that
Interessante.
it was the funnest.
Não sabia disso.
Yeah, it was the funnest teaching I've ever done in my entire life. And I have to be honest, like if I had to do it again, if somebody said, "Could you do it in Italian? Could you do it in French?" I would just jump and do it because again, I would just study my brains out because I know then at that moment,
Hum.
my responsibility for these children and their ability to learn is going to be on the line. So I take that super seriously, and that's why I studied my brains out to be able to have that those classes and do that. And it was just such a wonderful experience. I think most people would say no at that point. They would have backed away from the job or said like, "No, I can't do
Provavelmente.
that." But
Hum.
but in my case, I'm just that bit of atrevido that I am. I'm just like, yeah, let's just go for it. I'm just
Ah,
gonna try and
sem
I'll
vergüenza?
yeah, sin vergüenza. That's right. I have no shame at all.
Sem vergonha, né? Sem
Yeah, sin
vergonha.
vergüenza. Sin vergüenza in Spanish. Yeah. But
É,
yeah, so it's wonderful that we were able to have this talk. But before we're going to kind of wrap up here, what I would
ok.
like to do before we wrap up is, what are you doing right now? What are you trying to promote? What are you getting? We're going to have you back on the show for sure, because there's just so much more we could talk about and other ideas and topics. I just want to people these days. I'm interviewing several people
Hum.
in the same format, and then we're going to come back and talk about other things. But what kind of things are you interested in, so that our listeners will know a little bit about what they can expect in the next
É,
videos?
bom, desde que eu cheguei no Japão até agora, muitas coisas mudaram. O que eu fazia, o que eu faço mudou muito, né? Eu vim para o Japão, trabalhei no restaurante, trabalhei em fábrica, depois eu comecei a trabalhar no jornal brasileiro, eu fui vendedor de um jornal brasileiro que chamava International Press, que era o maior jornal da comunidade brasileira, fui vendedor ali, foi um trabalho que me ensinou muito, também aprendi muitas coisas. Bom, depois comecei a dar aula, e eu trabalho com carro, eu exporto carros aqui do Japão para fora, né? Então, assim, o meu contato hoje com a comunidade brasileira, por conta da minha profissão, da minha atividade profissional, diminuiu muito, né? Então, mas assim, eu hoje faço coisas totalmente diferentes do que eu fazia quando eu cheguei no Japão. Assim como você também, eu gosto de aprender coisas novas, eu gosto de tentar fazer coisas novas. Agora também estou num projeto com o meu irmão lá no Brasil, nós também estamos exportando o carro do Brasil para fora. Enfim, então tem várias coisas acontecendo, né? E
Nice.
os hobbies que eu gosto de subir montanha, que eu ando de
Yeah,
bicicleta,
you're
eu,
a mountaineer.
eu gosto de subir montanha, eu gosto muito. Eu falei para você que eu já subi o e-book 3 vezes,
Yeah.
e então, e
The so get back to you kind of touched one of the words that everybody who knows me knows, that you say anything around bicycle or cycle or bike, and I have to get into that conversation. If you can see back into my picture, there's a picture of the
sim,
bike.
sim, sim.
There's a bike there, and I got to be honest with you that the word bicycle kind of is my trigger point. What do you ride?
Eu não sou tão, provavelmente eu não seja tão aficionado como
Uh-huh.
você, né?
Uh-huh.
Mas eu tenho uma city bike normal que eu uso muito para ir trabalhar também quando eu moro na cidade de Nagoya, mas quando eu trabalho, por exemplo, em Sakai, Fushimi, estação de Nagoya, eu vou de bicicleta, dá mais ou menos uns 10 quilômetros para ir, mais uns 10 para voltar. Então é uma coisa que é um exercício, é muito gostoso. Final de semana, também saio para andar de bicicleta, às vezes coloco no meu carro, vou lá para Tokishi, onde tem um lugar muito bacana para andar de bicicleta. E eu faço isso também, eu gosto muito. Aí eu até comentei com você da outra vez, talvez eu até estou pensando em comprar uma mountain bike para a gente fazer um
Oh
ride
yeah.
diferente, né?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like what I will say is I got into cycling when I was a kid. I would cycle in the United States, but um yeah, over in Japan, I've just never liked driving. I drove for like maybe I think 2 years. I drove a car when I first
Hum,
got here, and I just hated it. Like I don't like
ah,
the way that it feels. So then I realized that essentially you don't need to have a car in Japan. Like I know a lot of people use cars quite a bit in Japan because they are easier to to get around, to do different things. But like need you don't necessarily need one. And I found that if I just rode my bike to everywhere that I couldn't go, if it was more than 2 hours, I'd take a train. But if it was two
hum,
hours by bike, I know I just get up an hour earlier and then just get home an hour later, then it's the
hum,
same pretty much as taking the train. And so yeah, if it's not 2 hours away, I would just ride the bike. And
sim.
yeah, it was interesting that I found that to just be easier. And then I got really into mountain bikes. And so now I'm always looking for trails, and I'm looking for ways up and down Ibuki on a mountain bike. And right now I know that the main trail, they don't permit mountain bikes, but I think I've found a few back doors into Ibuki that would probably work to ride down because nobody walks them. So I'm looking for that special spot on Ibuki. And just so you know, and you're always invited, there's a on the 28th of this month, there's a CCJ. Have you heard of CCJ?
Sim, sim, eu participo desse, eu entrei nesse grupo também para ver as atividades deles. É um grupo que eles são profissionais praticamente de corrida, de bicicleta, né?
Well, some of them are, but a lot of them are just that would be what you think, but actually there are a lot of what they call novatos, like noobs.
Novato, amador, né? Sim,
Yeah.
sim, sim.
There's a lot of noobs that show up, and so I try to take care of the new people for mountain bike because I'm not. People have to understand, it's like I like riding mountain bikes. I don't like riding downhill. I like riding uphill. So anything you can ride up, I'll ride it down. If I can't ride it up, I usually don't ride it down. So that's like so people have to understand, I'm not the kind of mountain biker that's jumping off cliffs and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm the guy who takes you up a beautiful view, and then you get a beautiful view going down. And so yeah, so it's not a technical, I'm not a technical rider. So that's the other point. But I would say, please, if you can, come to CCJ events. They're a great time. If you're not Brazilian, still come to the events. They love people from all different countries. If you're Spanish speakers, then you get the best of both worlds. You can speak in English, you can speak in Japanese, you can speak in Portuguese. Spanish speakers have it the best in this country. I have to be honest, because they get to have the community of the Spanish community. They get to have the Portuguese community. A lot of times they speak English, so they get to be in the English speaking community, and then you'll learn Japanese, and eventually you can always stay a little bit into the Japanese community. So I think the Spanish speakers have it the best. Portuguese speakers have it pretty good. English speakers probably have it the worst out of like the foreigners that are living here, because they don't interact with the Brazilian culture, and if they did, they'd be a lot it'd be a lot more fun. So yeah, getting up to about an hour into this interview, the only thing I would like to ask you now is, if somebody wants to get in contact you for any of your services, do you still teach English, or do you not teach English at all at this point?
Sim, sim, inclusive eu tenho até alunos particulares, eu alugo um lugar aqui na cidade de Nagoya. Você já ouviu falar nesses share office?
Oh yeah, I have, yeah.
Share office é mais ou menos esses escritórios que têm repartições, etc. E você pode alugar por hora, etc. Então eu alugo esse lugar onde eu dou as minhas aulas particulares. É um lugar super cool. E é muito bacana, pode ser de sábado, pode ser até de domingo, é aberto, só que geralmente domingo eu não trabalho, né? Mas dia de semana também não tem problema, né? Eu tenho alguns alunos particulares também, inclusive tem uma amiga, ela faz parte do CCCJ também, e a gente também sobe montanha junto. Ela é muito ativa, uma pessoa super ativa, assim, sabe? Ela faz canyoning, descer cachoeira, ela anda de bicicleta, ela sobe montanha.
I hope she's coming on the 28th, because again, like I want to meet as many people as I can. This is one where we're going out, and I'm going to teach the mountain biking section. I'm super pumped about it. But like, so if people want to get in contact you, they can contact you with Facebook. What's the best social media for you?
Sim, eu tenho Facebook, Richard Livramento. Tô lá no Facebook, Richard Livramento. Tô no Facebook.
So I'm going to put that. This will end up in YouTube first, and then I'm going to share it onto Facebook from YouTube.
Okay.
So and we will eventually make this all into podcasts. But the problem with the podcast is, like, I don't know how to upload it. That's that's been Yudi's job, and Yudi normally did that. And so I'm going to blame it on Yudi if it doesn't become into podcast. But I put it up onto YouTube, and so we will definitely have this on YouTube, and then we'll share it onto the Facebook. And we can, if you want to get in touch with Richard, just get in touch with him through Facebook. And of course, I hope you'll be able to share this video. And if people need to get in touch with me for anything, My main job right now, what I'm trying to get into and do the most is mountain bike tours. So
Ah,
more than teaching English, I do teach at the university in Inuyama, and I
hum,
teach at the university here in near Gifu. But as soon as I possibly can work into
hum.
just doing mountain bike tours, that's what I'm going to do. And I'll probably have a bike shop eventually as well, because those things
Hum,
usually go hand in hand. Right now,
sim,
we can do a tour with a bike rental. If you're interested in that, if anybody out there is like thinking, okay, I want to do that. But have you ever led tours of into the like hiking tours? When you guys do
não,
the
não,
hiking, you don't lead
não.
that. You get
Ou eu vou com um grupo, que eu
right,
participo de um grupo de hiking aqui, e a
hmm,
gente vai para subir montanha mesmo, e aí tem gente de vários países também.
right,
Por isso que aí falar inglês é uma boa, porque você pode se comunicar com pessoas de vários países. Tem do Irã, tem das Filipinas, tem da
yeah,
Indonésia, tem brasileiro, francês e blá blá blá.
yeah, yeah.
Então aí é essa mistura, né? E às
That's
vezes eu
great,
gosto também de ir sozinho. Eu gosto também de fazer minha caminhada sozinho, minha corrida sozinho, coloco minha bicicleta no carro e vou sozinho, porque eu gosto também, né?
awesome,
Isso.
yeah,
Mas é legal. Mas eu tenho
yeah.
vontade de participar com você também no mountain bike. Eu só tô dando um tempo para ver como é que fica meu schedule, essas coisas assim, para a
And
gente
as soon as
participar,
possible, I'm
né?
happy to give you the tours that we do. One of the
Isso.
other things that we do is we do and this is another work that I'm working on is camping and hiking tours. So
Hum,
we'll have to definitely get together and talk about how where you go hiking and how you do your camping. But
uhum.
we have one that's coming up in April. It's an international camp, and I'm inviting everybody to that. So you're always welcome to that if you can make it fit into your schedule. It's on the 17th and
Legal.
18th in Yoro. Have you been to Yoro?
Iorô, sim, já o Iorô não tá aqui, tem a cachoeira de Iorô, já fui para
Yeah,
lá. Ogaki, eu ia muito para Ogaki também,
yeah, it's
já
great.
fui muito. Sim.
So,
Bacana.
Richard, I'm going to leave it here for us because we've gone over to the hour point right now. But what
Ok,
I want to say is you've been a wonderful guest, and we'll definitely have you on to talk about specific
obrigado.
topics and maybe some more controversial things in the future. So if you can think of something
Ah,
that you're very opinionated on and that most people don't agree with you on, then this is the place to do it because the wonderful thing about our program is the YouTube algorithms don't know what to do with it because it's all in English and Portuguese. So we can talk about
ah,
whatever we want, and usually it goes through without any problem. But
ok.
yeah, so it'll be good to have you on to talk about some polemic ideas, and
Hum,
I'm looking forward to that. And I hope that our audience has enjoyed this as well. I think what has really been useful is if I listen to Richard when you talk in Portuguese, it's a very easy to understand Portuguese. I think that's because you've
hum.
been a Portuguese teacher for a while, and
Talvez.
that makes it you use you pronounce your words properly. You kind of use a complete sentence when you speak,
Hum.
and I think people say the same thing about me. They say, Rob, I understand you, but I don't understand another person. And I think it's because I tend to pronounce my words completely, and I
Hum.
tend to try to make complete thoughts when I speak because that makes it easier for people to understand. And
Talvez isso seja uma tendência de professores, né? Falar
yeah,
claramente, sentenças claras, sentença completa, não
right.
falar muito rápido, não falar muita gíria, enfim,
Yeah.
para a pessoa
I think
entender.
that's the point. Yeah. It's great. I
Sim.
think if you're learning Portuguese, this is probably the best we've had for like a Portuguese speaker who is just like clear. For me, everything you've said has been really super clear and easy. And I think that if I
Hum.
was learning Portuguese off of this program, this would have been really helpful. So I really want to get you back on to speak more because I
Hum.
really enjoyed this. Okay.
Bacana, bacana.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much. I'm going to just cut the
Tá
recording
bom?
now and